why we all care so much about Harvey Weinstein, and everything that followed. Cabot Lee Petoia, a 23-year-old public relations assistant in Washington, D.C., had never heard of Harvey Weinstein until her boss sent her a link to the New York Times exposé about his decades of alleged sexual harassment. "Initially, I didn't have much of a reaction because I thought he was just another creepy old dude," Petoia says. But as the news of his alleged assaults and harassment began to grow, and #MeToo began to take over social media, Petoia took more notice. She says in the aftermath of the news she felt empowered to tell my stories to some of my friends for the first time in my life. In the weeks since the Times and the New Yorker published the first allegations against Weinstein, the story has become near unavoidable. The number of women who have accused him of sexual harassment, misconduct or assault has passed 60. Director James Toback has been accused of harassment by more than 300 women. Kevin Spacey has been accused of sexually harassing actor Anthony Rapp when Rapp was 14 years old. The scandal and the ensuing conversation about sexual violence have reached far beyond Hollywood as allegations against figures ranging from celebrity chef John Besh to journalist Mark Halperin to former President George H.W. Bush have come to light. But why have the allegations against Weinstein, a powerful name in Hollywood and media circles but not a household one, caused a conversation that has been more pervasive than those following allegations against Bill Cosby, Woody Allen, Bill O'Reilly, R. Kelly or even President Donald Trump? What Weinstein allegedly did and who he allegedly did it to may be more important to average Americans than the man himself, experts say. The number of A-list celebrities, from Gwyneth Paltrow to Angelina Jolie to Lupita Nyong'o, speaking out is unprecedented. The prominence of the accusers lends enormous credence and power to the allegations, says University of Maryland broadcast journalism professor and media expert Mark Halperin. It gives a lot more oxygen to the story. Trana Burke, a sexual assault survivors advocate who started the Me Too movement a decade ago, says our collective obsession with pop culture may explain why everyday Americans are taking notice. There's no perfect victim, obviously, but I think that's the way America is, so invested in pop culture that it would take some of our favorite celebrities coming forward and saying that this happened to me and I affirm that this thing is real for people to respond, she says. What the Cosby, O'Reilly and other cases lacked was the power of celebrity. In the case of Cosby, the women were connected or, Hollywood, industry adjacent, Burke says. In the case of O'Reilly, they, initially, were women who were relatively unknown in the journalism world. And in the case of R. Kelly, they were black girls. Social media has helped Americans connect with the story, too. Many celebrity women came forward on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram to share their Harvey story, including actresses Rose McGowan, Cara Delevingne and Game of Thrones star Lena Headey. April Rain, the digital media strategist who started the #OscarsSoWhite campaign, which protested the lack of diversity in Hollywood and helped force change at the Academy, says the personal aspect of social media has helped create interest in the story. It's different from a press statement that's been released by someone's publicist, she says. You're coming out and telling your story first person. I think it has a much more salient impact to other folks who have also experienced sexual assault and violence at the hands of someone in power. More, Academy to establish member code of conduct to fight film industry sexual harassment. Timeline, Harvey Weinstein's career and alleged abuses. That Weinstein's alleged victims are prominent, sympathetic figures has given life to the story in the media, but experts say his alleged crimes, ranging from misconduct to harassment to rape, makes the various tales of Weinstein accusers more relatable. We're talking about an array of crimes that, unfortunately, is a near universal experience for women and girls in our country, says Kristen Hauser, spokesperson for the National Sexual Violence Resource Center. She says the allegations against Weinstein range the full spectrum of sexual violence. While 20% of the population of women in America have experienced a completed or attempted rape, many more have experienced these other kinds of things. The Weinstein case has become personal for many people, who have been emboldened to share their stories. In the aftermath of the allegations, women, and men, have posted accounts of sexual harassment and assault on social media using the hashtag #MeToo. As of October 31st, over 2.1 million tweets have used the hashtag on Twitter, according to the social media site. Facebook reports that there were 4.7 million people worldwide engaging with the posts in the first 24 hours of the trend. Overall, 45% of Americans on Facebook are friends with someone who has posted Me Too. This really is why group therapy is effective in helping people overcome trauma, because it overcomes isolation, shame and stigma, Hauser says. Celebrities like Ashley Judd, who shared her Weinstein allegations in the Times, and Gretchen Carlson have said this story is a tipping point in the national conversation about sexual assault. Kendall Schenk, a 23-year-old student at the University of North Carolina, Asheville, agrees with them. This news has empowered other victims to come forward with their own stories, and it is dominating the current news cycle, she says, adding that Me Too has crowded her social media feeds and sparked real-life conversations. But how long the story's momentum keeps the conversation about sexual abuse and assault in the national spotlight remains to be seen. I think eventually all of these scandals reach a point of public exhaustion and peter out, says Feldstein. But he adds, I think as long as there's widespread grotesque query of this kind and there's public revulsion to it, you're going to keep seeing more stories come out. Burke, who has been doing advocacy work for sexual violence survivors for years, says the conversation does feel different this time. But to her, the next step is to turn focus outside of Hollywood to everyday people. The next thing is, the women and the men and queer people and the disabled people around the world who are also chiming in, with stories of harassment and assault. We have to pay attention to them too.